What made your ex the crazy ex? When he called the police to tell them I was receiving drugs through the mail slot in my front door, then parked in front of my house after he put drugs through my mail slot. When the police arrived to talk to me, my neighbor told them they had seen him do it and that he was still sitting in his car on the street watching. He was then arrested and charged with possession, distribution, and violating a trespassing and restraining order. He put a tracking app on my phone, put cameras in our house, and would refuse to go to events with me but then show up and sit outside in his car watching me. She intentionally ran me over with her car. Broke into my house, stole my dad's phone, and wrote a letter on the back of my door in Sharpie, "I love you, rock arm man, and I always will. Love, Jessica." At least the note made it easy for the cops. Oh, and she ate my fucking pizza. Oh, just the usual, stalking and threatening suicide over the phone. You know the typical love story. Just like The Notebook. Boy meets girl, girl leaves boy, boy threatens suicide, girl blocks boy, boy slashes girl's tires and hangs dead cats in her porch. Almost Shakespearean. She pissed on my living room floor, hit me with a frying pan, and kicked a police officer square in the nuts. Wanted me to start a poly relationship with him and the gal he cheated on me with after I initiated the divorce. Got raging drunk when he thought she was cheating on him and tried to leave her place with our kids in the car. How I learned to appreciate the GF. She stopped him and called me. Told my first post-divorce BF a whopper of a tale about why our marriage ended with me being portrayed as the one who cheated on him with another couple. Oh, so many things. Standard abusive relationship stuff, but the thing that's most shocking to people is after I broke up with him he called me constantly and threatened suicide if I didn't talk to him, and he would cut himself and drink his own blood while on the phone with me. He said his ex had passed away from breast cancer, but that to save him from hurt, she'd broken up with him under the guise that she'd gotten drunk and slept with another guy. Nope. She definitely cheated and she was very much alive and well. This was just one of the many lies he fed me. But this was an absolute mindfuck. She was verbally, emotionally, financially and eventually physically abusive. She used to threaten to call the police and say I raped her or to get me deported before I was a citizen. Went to counseling because she insisted the problems were all on my side, and after 2 sessions the counselor called me privately and told me to get out ASAP. He sent messages about what an awful person I am to all my friends and to my mother. The one to my mom also included a suicide note. He also sent me a picture of him setting fire to a stuffed animal that was supposed to symbolize our happy years. After telling him I wanted nothing to do with his drama, he got some of his friends to text and call me non-stop for nearly a full week. Apparently if I responded they were to convince me I was the dramatic one. He and his friends also would pop in randomly to my place of work after that. Leaving BS complaints with management. Half the time they'd be ignored. BC they'd make a complaint without making sure I worked that day though. Lol. Was pretty uncomfortable that these LGBT+ activist folks basically forced me to out myself at work to explain to my bosses what was going on. Took a new phone number, new apartment, and new job to finally shake him off my back. When I was 20 I had been living with my best mate for 18 months and her BF, who turned out to be a horrendous slob. Moved in and packed the house full of stuff. He was 30 and in a bit of a rough spot between jobs because he got caught stoned at work. I've no bother with stoners, but he worked on a high-reach forklift in our city's busiest warehouse. Think 4 acres of floor space, 12 meters high racking with 24-hour shifts and a couple dozen forklifts constantly running. 6 months after he moved in she finally got sick of begging him to sort out his stuff and started tidying and organizing. She threw away a shopping bag of old takeaway rubbish, and the only other thing that went in there was bits of a broken disc on the floor of the garage where more of his stuff was stored. When he got home he went mental. We had a handful of friends around and he stormed in and threw a munched-up rental PlayStation game case on the table and screamed at her in front of everyone about how he hadn't finished the game and how he couldn't return it to the rental store now and she had no right to touch his stuff. He'd show her how it felt when people didn't care about your things. He went to the driveway. We had waist-high fences and our driveway was only about 5 meters long. Jumped into the roof of her car and peed on it while continuing to rave about respecting other people's things. She vanished. So I was like, wow, okay, guess we are broke up. And one night about 5 months later she showed up at apartment hole. I was at work and started kicking the door saying she's sorry and she loved me. And I was AFGGOT. And an asshole and that she missed me so much she wanted to die. Like. All over the place. My upstairs neighbor took a video. Then called the police. We dated casually for like 3 months. Turns out she left because she met a man at a bar and immediately fell in love. They ran away to New York City. Got married. And did so many drugs. Like. Reckless bender. She had an OD and then a revelation in the hospital. Immediately came home and I guess expected me to be waiting anxiously for her. I wasn't heartbroken, just confused. I never saw her until after she had gone through a full rehab course and completely excused herself from her old life. She told me a very watered-down version of how things went. I knew from my neighbor the truth. It was very embarrassing for her and I didn't let her know that I knew the reality. She's recovering well though, poor thing. The short and sweet version. He never confronted his father for demanding to see half-naked photos of me. He then lectured me about my reaction to the situation. My ex had a crazy ex. On a couple of occasions. He bought the same ticket to the theater as we did, then proceed to eat at the same restaurant as we did. Both time he was alone and got a table where he would be facing us. Somehow he got my number and told me to break up with her because he still loves her. Called on several occasions to talk to her because she had blocked his number. Went to her parents' house to ask her parents for their blessings, then the following day proposed to her at 6 in the morning on a work day. She was scared of a van parked outside her apartment window and their men inside the van that were surveilling her. So for her protection she brought a male friend over and sucked his dick. The next morning was Valentine's Day. She went on to blow up my phone from a blocked number for the next 6 months. He dumped me and told me he never really loved me. He always struggled between love and lust. A self-proclaimed philosopher who was making music on SoundCloud. Awful music, by the way. He never played an instrument in his life. Kept having sex cause I was in love still. Used me to smoke in my friend's garage. And then 2 days after I was raped. He said he wasn't going to be my friend anymore because I called him an asshole when he kept giving unsolicited advice on the way to an interview and pumping my anxiety up right before and continued afterwards. He said I was using him for his car after this argument. Also said, I don't care about your anxiety, the entire relationship. What a fucking psycho. She started a fight because I packed the groceries into the car, little bit of a control freak, while she was on the phone. The entire drive I just said, let it go, and, drop it, and, take a few minutes to calm down. If you still feel like talking about it when we get to the apartment. We can talk about it then when we're not so emotional. She continued to natter on. When we got to the apartment, I told her to stop the car. That I was going to get out and walk through the parking lot and I'd meet her at the apartment to unload groceries. She stopped the car and I undid my seatbelt. Opened the door, and swung my legs out. My arm was still through the seatbelt and my feet were touching the ground, Hyundai Tiburon. Low ground clearance, and I leaned forward to stand up out of the car when she gunned it. The door started swinging shut on my legs and I pushed out with my arms to keep the door open when we hit a speed bump which threw me out of the car, being off-balanced. I barely managed to clear my arm from the seatbelt as I got away from the car and slid about 5 feet across asphalt. I laid there for a minute, trying to figure out what had happened, where my glasses were, and why my entire body felt like it was on fire. I stood up. She was down at the other end of the parking lot in front of the apartment. I had road rash from my shoulder down just below my waistline across my back. Both forearms looked like a cheese grater had gone over them. I limped down to where she was parked and got there in time to hear her talking on the phone. With my mother, I was in my 30s at this point. Telling her that he just went crazy and jumped out of the car and went running off. I have no idea where he is. We might have to call police to find him," while she was looking right at me. Icing on the cake? She approached me at a bar a few weeks later, no idea how she knew I was there. I sure as shit didn't tell her, and demanded that we work things out. Because I don't want it to be over. It got so bad that the bouncers escorted her out. She tried it again a few months after that. Different bar, where I was at with friends and my now wife. That was the last I heard of her. Dated this guy for a year. Turns out he was a psychopath plus narcissist. He broke up with me in a very brutal way for no reason. I found someone else who's way better and perfect for me soon after. Since then he won't leave me alone, accusing my current BF of cheating and threatening to blackmail us, saying that he has proof my current BF has harassed girls. He also does this thing acting like different people on text messages when he texts by faking personalities and names and such. I block him and he gets new numbers to text off of. He's currently texting my sister telling her that he wants me back and spewing BS about how he misses me. It's been 2 years since we broke up and I've tried my very best to keep away and avoid contact with him at all costs. Me and my ex live in completely different cities, but some of his friends on my college campus have even tried talking to me to see if I'd take him back. My ex has openly admitted to keeping tabs on me and my BF and what's going on in my life. It's honestly creepy. Wonder when he's gonna give up. One was an alcoholic. Started to find cigarette butts in the street and accused me of cheating. The other was abused as a child. My penis reminded her of her brothers, who raped her constantly. She needed someone to abuse her, and to be angry about it. I didn't rise to the challenge. She was very bright and personable, but whenever her life started going well she would sabotage it. Accused me of having an STI and then wouldn't tell me what she saw and where. Did I mention that she got angry at me for seeing a doctor that weekend to get checked out? He went out to the bar on his 21st birthday. I was 19, so I went to bed in his room. Woke up when he got back and started fooling around. He tried to have unprotected sex with me. Like, really made it clear he didn't want to use a condom. And I said no. He proceeded to go to sleep and I assumed he was just being a drunk idiot. I woke up the next morning and as we were laying in bed talking, he said he wanted me to have his babies. We'd been dating for less than a month. Then he broke up with me 3 weeks later. It was so bizarre. He also texted me, "I miss you," right after I got engaged. 6 years later, I told him the feeling wasn't mutual and haven't spoken to him since. This question lol dude was crazy throughout the entire relationship. But when I decided to leave him after 5 years of constant lies and cheating, yeah. I had very low self-esteem and never thought I'd find someone who actually loved me because this dude was mentally abusive. He started getting very stalkerish. He'd call me from every number he could. I blocked every number. He started calling my job, sending me flowers, trying to come over, showed up to the house and locked himself in my room, blocking the door and making statements along the lines of, "I guess you can say that I am crazy. 'Cause I don't want you to be with anyone else." I ended up getting him to leave by agreeing to meet him for lunch the next day. He also started messaging my mom on Facebook and explaining to her that he knew he could be the man that I needed him to be. Note. All the while he's doing these things, he has a girlfriend. I ended up blocking him on my mom's Facebook because she refused to do it. And to top it off, during a time that I was most fragile, he ended up raping me. That was the last straw. It's been 7 years. I am now happily married. But I do still struggle with the effects of this crap. I'm happy that my husband is understanding and helps me through it. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.